My name is Maren Caldwell, and I'm 28 years old. Competence, for me, is a quiet instrument. It hums beneath the surface, bills paid before late fees, schedules that line up like clockwork, the subtle calculations that keep life upright while everyone else scrambles. I had believed love would work in the same way, steady, reliable, respectful. Until last Thursday night. Caleb Weston, 30, my boyfriend for 4 years, had other ideas. He could make a Tuesday feel like a red carpet premiere, his presence a kind of low-level chaos I sometimes mistook for charm. But he had this way of slipping his decisions past you like they were trivial, when in fact, they could demolish the ground beneath your feet. That night, I was sitting on the couch, phone in hand, scrolling through work emails, when he walked in from the bedroom. Not next to me, across from me, a small but subtle gesture that should have been my first warning. "So," he said, casual as a weather report, "I've decided we're having an open relationship." I blinked at him. The words hung in the air, awkwardly sharp. "You've decided?" "Yeah, been thinking about it for a while," he said, shrugging. "We're young. We should explore. Experience other people. It's healthy." I leaned back silent, my brain calculating. 4 years together, living together for 2, and he just decides. Like choosing what to watch on Netflix. "When did you decide this?" I asked, the words measured. "Does it matter? I'm telling you now." I studied his face, the slight twitch at the corner of his mouth, the glint in his eyes. Perfect timing, I thought bitterly. My voice was calm, almost too calm. "Yeah, that's perfect timing." His face flickered, confusion or irritation, I couldn't tell. "Perfect timing?" "Yes," I said, "perfect timing." Caleb's lips quivered as he mentioned Cassidy, our regular coffee shop barista, 24, a musician in a local band. "She's been asking me out for months. I've turned her down. Until now. Since we're open." I swallowed a laugh that would have sounded bitter. Cassidy, the barista with tattoos running up her arms, who served him coffee every morning and had clearly made her intentions known. And now, apparently, she was fair game. "You've been talking to her?" I asked, each word deliberate. "We chat," he said. "I've always said I was taken, but now I'm, not exclusively." The silence stretched like the space between two planets. I could almost see the wheels turning in his head. This wasn't going according to any plan I had imagined. "We should have rules," I said finally. "Sure," he said. "What kind of rules?" "You tell each other everything. No catching feelings. And I don't know, maybe think about all the details before making unilateral decisions." He stood, pacing now, hands in his pockets. "You're really calm about this. Shouldn't you be freaking out?" I met his eyes, steady. "This is what you want, right?" "Yes." "Then we're good. And tomorrow I'll probably ask Cassidy out." "Tomorrow?" I arched a brow. "Why wait? We're open now." He shrugged and muttered something about timing, then headed toward the bedroom. I heard him on the phone, probably to his sister Chloe or his best friend Ava, the usual confidants. And just like that, we were both lying in a bed we hadn't agreed upon, filled with invisible strangers and hypothetical rules. I wasn't mad, just disappointed. We'd had issues lately, less intimacy, more roommate energy. I thought we could work through it. He thought we could work through it by multiplying partners. Fine by me. 2 can play this game. Friday morning arrived, crisp and quiet. I went about my routine, calculating, prepared, aware. Caleb's plan to meet Cassidy at night loomed, and I watched him in action with a detached sort of curiosity, like observing an experiment. At the coffee shop, Cassidy leaned on the counter. "So," she said, voice low and teasing. "That means you're available?" "Yes," I imagined Caleb grinning like a fox in a henhouse. She tilted her head. "Want to grab drinks tonight? My band's playing at Rosewood Bar at 9. "Yes," I whispered to myself, not to intervene, letting the pieces fall into place. That evening, Caleb got ready alongside me. His energy was almost tangible, buzzing, full smile, careful attention to his outfit, rehearsing charm in the mirror. "Going out?" I asked. "Yeah, meeting someone," he said, lipstick of opportunity already halfway applied, his enthusiasm somehow infectious even as it irritated me. I froze, lips pressed together. Cassidy's band was playing. "Should be fun," he added. And with that, the tension was suspended between us like a taut wire. The weekend unfolded with quiet observation. Saturday morning, we returned home separately. Caleb looked tired, yes, but differently than I did. His night had been a thrill. Mine was an analytical survey of consequences. I watched him interact with Cassidy online and later through glimpses at work, unaware of the ticking professional landmine Cassidy represented, her mother, Heather, regional manager at Caleb's company. That detail would only surface later, but even now I felt it like a shadow brushing the edges of my understanding. And I knew Caleb had no idea what he had unleashed. The gears of chaos were turning. I could almost hear the faint hum of it beneath the surface, waiting to snap. Saturday morning, the air smelled of espresso and rain-soaked sidewalks. Maren Caldwell, still processing the fallout of Caleb's unilateral decision, pushed open the door to the coffee shop. Cassidy was behind the counter, sleeves rolled up, tattoos peeking from beneath her uniform. Her smile was easy, practiced, confident, and today it carried a glint Maren had not missed: curiosity. "Morning," Cassidy said, voice lilting, eyes narrowing slightly as she studied Caleb's ringless hand and Maren's tight-lipped expression. "Interesting morning?" Maren inclined her head, carefully neutral. "Depends on your definition of interesting." Cassidy smirked knowingly. "I heard the news." Maren stiffened. Cassidy heard the news. Word travels fast. A part of her felt the prickle of jealousy, the sharp twist of protective instinct, but another part simply observed, detached. She was good at watching patterns unfold, and this was shaping up to be a particularly complex one. "I see," Maren said cautiously, folding her hands over her latte. "And you're okay with it?" Cassidy leaned in, elbows resting on the counter. "Depends. Are you talking about the rules or the lack of them?" Maren paused. Rules. Caleb had said they'd have rules. He had not, and the absence of them made this volatile. Cassidy's eyes gleamed with a mix of excitement and mischief, the kind that came from someone used to reading the room and knowing exactly which corners to push. "You're aware who Cassidy is?" Maren thought to ask herself, but said nothing, letting Cassidy fill in the blanks in her own time. Cassidy's smirk faltered for a split second. "You mean the little detail about my mom?" Maren tilted her head, a shadow of a frown crossing her face. "Your mother?" "Yes," Cassidy admitted. "Heather, regional manager. Your boyfriend works under her." Maren felt the hum of unease flicker inside her chest. Professional boundaries weren't just lines. They were landmines. And Caleb, as usual, had stepped directly onto one without a thought. Cassidy, sensing the shift, added quickly, "Don't freak. I've got this under control. I mean, you're Maren, right? Smart, measured. I can tell. I wouldn't put you in an impossible position." Maren appreciated the attempt at reassurance, but didn't relax. She sipped her coffee, letting the warmth anchor her. "Good. I'll hold you to that." They talked about Cassidy's band, upcoming gigs, the mundane interwoven with subtle tension. Maren noticed how Cassidy's humor contrasted sharply with Caleb's impulsive charm. Cassidy was grounded, deliberate in her energy, self-contained, a potential partner that wouldn't explode the same way Caleb's whimsical decisions did. Back at home, Caleb's excitement was palpable. He recounted his plans for the night, the band, drinks, the thrill of a first outing in this open arrangement. Maren watched, noting the unawareness in his movements, the same naive joy she'd seen before when he mistook spontaneity for understanding. Saturday night came with the usual flurry of sound and color. Caleb left with an almost childlike grin, phone already buzzing with Cassidy's texts. Maren stayed behind, making coffee, listening to the quiet hum of her apartment. In her mind, she traced the potential outcomes. What could go right? What could go catastrophically wrong? By Sunday morning, Maren realized that the chaos wasn't external. It was a slow, internal unraveling. She found herself checking messages, subtly tracking the interactions between Caleb and Cassidy. Not out of obsession, but as a precaution, a quiet acknowledgement that unilateral decisions had consequences she could already feel approaching like a storm on the horizon. Then came the text from Chloe, the sister figure who had the kind of insight reserved for those who see patterns before anyone else. "Were you at Brewster's Steakhouse last night?" Maren paused. "Brewster, last night. Cassidy. Caleb." She replied cautiously, knowing this could be a key thread in the unfolding web. "Yes, with Cassidy." Chloe's reply was immediate, tense. "Do you know who Cassidy really is?" The revelation hit like a whisper in a silent room. Heather's daughter. The professional overlap, the subtle risk Marin had feared, was now concrete. Caleb had no idea. And Marin's pulse quickened, not with fear exactly, but with the calculation of consequences. By Sunday evening, the tension had quietly thickened. Caleb returned, carefree, oblivious to the delicate threads Marin was already untangling in her mind. Dinner was silent at first, but the quiet wasn't comforting. It was a pause before the storm. Marin noticed Caleb's smile when he recounted Cassidy's enthusiasm about their coffee date, a detail that only tightened the knot in her chest. She understood, as she sipped her water, that the experiment Caleb had so blithely initiated was already exceeding his control. The coffee shop flirtation was no longer a simple dalliance. It had professional implications, emotional layers, and soon the potential for public exposure. Marin resolved silently that she would observe carefully. No interference, not yet. Let the pieces fall. Caleb had chosen his path. Now, Marin's part was to navigate the consequences with clarity, poise, and, most importantly, without losing herself in the chaos. The first test had begun, and Marin knew with quiet certainty that the storm's real shape was still hidden, waiting to strike at the most unexpected moment. Monday morning arrived like a slow drumbeat, heavy and inevitable. Marin Caldwell was at work, laptop open, but her mind kept returning to Caleb. The open relationship he had casually announced now felt less like an experiment and more like a ticking time bomb. And then her phone buzzed. Chloe, Caleb's sister figure, typing furiously. "Were you at Brewster's Steakhouse last night?" Marin hesitated. Brewster, the redhead. Cassidy? Yes, she replied. With Cassidy. Do you know who Cassidy really is? The words landed like bricks. Cassidy, fun, grounded, tattooed Cassidy, was Heather's daughter, Heather being Caleb's regional manager at work. Marin felt the cold prick of realization. Caleb had unknowingly crossed the line between personal chaos and professional disaster. She confronted Caleb at home, calm, but with the steel of inevitability. "Do you know who Cassidy's mother is?" He laughed, light, careless. "Heather? Yeah, of course. Why?" "You've been dating her daughter. Professionally, you're under her jurisdiction. You didn't think to consider that?" He shrugged, oblivious to the undercurrents. "We're open, Marin. We're exploring. It's not like it changes anything at work." The silence between them stretched, charged with tension. Marin's internal hum, the quiet instrument of competence, was vibrating off-key. This wasn't just about Caleb's impulsive desire to flirt and explore. It was about boundaries, about respect, about foresight. And for the first time in 4 years, she realized Caleb's charm didn't excuse recklessness. Then the messages started. 22 texts from Caleb in rapid succession, demanding explanations, expressing panic. "You knew? How could you? This is inappropriate. You need to stop seeing her. It affects my job." Marin read them calmly, though her pulse thudded in her chest. He couldn't see the storm he'd invited in. "I'm not stopping," she said finally. "We never made rules. You announced an open relationship. You forgot the agreements. Now live with it." Caleb's face twisted, disbelief and anger warring with confusion. "You're doing this to get back at me." "No," Marin said steadily. "You announced we're open. I accepted that reality. You wanted exploration, excitement. I'm exploring consequences." It was then that the full depth of betrayal surfaced. Caleb's ex-girlfriend, let's call her Zoe, had been maneuvering behind the scenes. Weeks of secret communications, emotional entanglements with a gym acquaintance named Dimitri, all under the guise of testing the waters in the open relationship. She had kept Caleb close, maintaining the illusion of control, while Caleb thought he was the one orchestrating the chaos. Marin watched, measured, as Caleb's naive world collided with Zoe's calculated scheming. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her calm presence was sharper than any scream. "You plan to cheat with permission," she said quietly. "Not cheating now, but for weeks, yes. You were naive enough to think this was about exploration." Caleb opened his mouth, then closed it, flailing for words that wouldn't matter. He had been the catalyst, but Marin was the one navigating the fallout. By the evening, Marin had packed a bag. Caleb's apartment, once a shared sanctuary, had become a staging ground for chaos. She left for Jerome's place, a friend who understood boundaries and the importance of personal space. Social media offered glimpses of the fallout. Caleb posted with Cassidy, oblivious to the professional tension looming over them. Zoe, meanwhile, flaunted her freedom with Dimitri, captions dripping with calculated irony. Marin scrolled through it once, then locked her phone. Observation had turned into clarity. Chaos was unfolding, and she wasn't the one causing it. Tuesday brought new layers. Heather, Cassidy's mother, reached out, a calm, professional presence amidst the drama. Marin braced herself for a confrontation, but found instead a conversation grounded in reality. Heather wasn't there to scold or threaten. She wanted clarity, boundaries, and acknowledgement that her daughter's workplace entanglements needed careful navigation. Marin handled it with the quiet poise she had cultivated for years, documenting every interaction, every nuance. Meanwhile, Caleb's panic deepened. He showed up unannounced at the coffee shop, at Marin's work, and even at the Italian restaurant where Cassidy and Marin shared a quiet dinner. Each encounter was charged with entitlement and desperation. Caleb seemed unable to distinguish between the chaos he had unleashed and the calm he had abandoned. The peak came one Wednesday evening. Marin sat across from Caleb and Dimitri at a restaurant, the tension crackling. Caleb tried reasoning. Dimitri intervened reluctantly, and Marin, steady, unshakable, simply observed. Caleb's actions had consequences, and for the first time, he had no script. Marin, in contrast, had been playing chess while he played checkers. "You can't just walk away from 4 years," Caleb said, voice rising, a mix of anger and pleading. "I did walk," Marin said, eyes fixed. "The moment you made a unilateral decision, you walked. I just followed. You chose chaos. I chose clarity." Zoe's schemes unraveled in parallel, Dimitri revealing the full scope of her manipulations. Heather's calm oversight contrasted sharply with the emotional hurricanes Caleb and Zoe had unleashed. Marin understood something essential. When someone shows you who they truly are, believe them. And when someone makes decisions without you, they're revealing exactly how much they value your presence in their life. By the end of the week, the professional, personal, and emotional landscape had shifted dramatically. Caleb was left facing fallout he hadn't anticipated. Marin, ever observant, had reclaimed her agency, navigating the storm with the quiet competence that had defined her life long before the chaos began. And in the midst of it, Cassidy remained a steady presence, supportive, grounded, interested, but patient. Marin realized that while the world had gone sideways, she still had control over her choices, her boundaries, and ultimately, her next steps. By Saturday morning, Marin Caldwell had made a decision. The chaos Caleb had unleashed, combined with Zoe's manipulations, had reached a point beyond negotiation. She packed the last of her things, her movements deliberate, calm, almost ceremonious. Jerome and 2 close friends helped carry boxes into her new apartment, a smaller studio, but entirely hers. No shared spaces, no surprises, no unilateral decisions. Just clarity. The apartment smelled faintly of fresh paint and new beginnings. Marin set her coffee machine in the corner, arranged the little green plants she had brought from her old apartment, and breathed. The hum of her own competence returned, steady and grounding. She had chosen herself, and in that choice, she felt free. Meanwhile, Caleb faced the fallout he had long ignored. The ex-girlfriend's schemes had collapsed spectacularly. Dimitri, once a willing participant in Zoe's manipulations, had pulled away, frustrated by the chaos she had engineered. Caleb's attempts to regain control were met with indifference or outright resistance from both Marin and the professional circles he had jeopardized. Heather, Cassidy's mother and regional manager, had maintained her professionalism. She clarified workplace boundaries, ensuring that Marin and Caleb's personal entanglements would not disrupt operations. Her calm authority contrasted sharply with the emotional turbulence Caleb had created. In the process, Caleb realized how reckless he had been, how a single unilateral decision had fractured 4 years of relationship, trust, and professional stability. Marin kept her distance from the drama, choosing instead to focus on the small, tangible things that restored order. The hum of her apartment, the alignment of her finances, the careful organization of her calendar, all were reminders that control, when claimed consciously, was a powerful balm. And then there was Cassidy. Through the turbulence, Cassidy had been supportive, never pushy, always present. They spent quiet evenings together, talking, laughing, and exploring a connection that felt grounded, intentional, and mutual. Marin allowed herself to lean into the slow-building trust and affection, savoring each interaction without rushing toward labels or expectations. One evening, as Marin prepared dinner in her new kitchen, she reflected on the whirlwind of the past weeks. Caleb's open relationship announcement, Zoe's manipulation, the professional hazards, the social fallout, all had been tests of patience, clarity, and self-respect. And in every test, Marin realized she had passed, not because of luck, but because of deliberate thought, emotional awareness, and the refusal to be swept along by chaos. Her phone buzzed, a message from Caleb. "Can we please talk? I miss us." Marin read it once, then again, carefully. 4 years of her life, dissolved by unilateral decisions and selfishness, could not be summoned back with a simple text. She typed a response with measured calm. "There is no us anymore. You ended that when you made choices without me. I followed, I observed, and I chose clarity. Now live with your decisions." She locked her phone, set it aside, and poured herself a cup of tea. Outside, the city hummed with its usual rhythm, unaware of the private storms it had contained for her. Inside, everything was quiet, organized, hers. Chloe reached out later, apologizing for her sister's behavior, acknowledging the embarrassment caused by Zoe's schemes. It was a small gesture, a thread of humanity in a week filled with chaos. Marin accepted it silently, the acknowledgement enough without requiring further engagement. As she prepared for another evening with Cassidy, Marin reflected on the lessons etched into her consciousness. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. When someone makes unilateral decisions about shared life, take notice of what that says about respect and value. And when life offers you chaos, sometimes the best response is to reclaim your space, your agency, and your peace, entirely, unapologetically, without compromise. In the weeks that followed, Marin settled into her new apartment, her routines, and a budding, careful connection with Cassidy. She navigated work, friendships, and personal boundaries with renewed confidence. The past drama became a reference point, not a burden. She didn't seek revenge. She didn't linger on anger. She focused on what she could control, her choices, her home, her relationships. And in that quiet competence, she discovered a freedom she hadn't fully realized she was capable of experiencing. The chapter with Caleb, with Zoe, with unilateral chaos, was closed. Marin's life now moved at her own pace, her own rhythm, with people she could trust, boundaries she could enforce, and a clarity that no impulsive charm could ever unsettle. And as she sipped her evening tea, Cassidy by her side, Marin allowed herself a small, contented smile. Life was hers again, steady, thoughtful, and beautifully, entirely hers.